Hi, this is Joe Misabni with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension at Dallas Center. Today is November 4th, and I will be sharing with you my story on the Dallas garden for October, a little bit of September and a little bit of October activity. Basically, the transition between between spring garden and fall garden. And come join me. We're going to learn a lot about what's good, what's bad, and um, harvesting, planning, preparing, all that. So as we remove my colleague and I, as we work on the garden and we remove spring crops, I add compost, which is a lesson I teach everybody, and I tell them Joe's golden rule is the last thing you want to do before planting is add compost. So here is in action what I have just before planting. I added more compost. This is good quality compost. It's a turf blend, 50% sand, 50% compost, probably too expensive for general purpose use. Or for the average garden, for the average use, but I'm happy with it. And after adding compost and fixing the lines and fixing the leaks and the drip line and setting the drip line straight and all that, I used a Jang vegetable seeder to plant some rows on these beds. Some had radish trial, some had carrot trial. Um, I thought I calibrated it right. I thought I was using the right wheel, but as you will see, it overseeded. And that's something you don't want to do, overseed. You're just wasting too many seeds and adds more work to thin them. Unless you are like me, when you are thin them, it's a bonus crop. It does not go to waste. It is a meal that you cook. No matter what it is, any leafy green I grow, whether it's fall or even spring crops, I cook with it. Even carrot tops, when they are small seedlings and I thin them, that can go in a sauteed dish and it'll taste just like carrots. So nothing goes to waste. And here's a close-up of this. Looks like the arugula trial that I did. In my 4-foot wide bed, I was able to make 5 lines. I could have squeezed in one more easily if I wanted to. Okay, and this is a while later after they started germinating, and you can see how thick they are. Of course, that was planted about a month ago. I had to use that sprinkler, overhead sprinkler here to keep the surface moist all the time, which is another lesson most gardeners fail to do when they plant seeded or shallow seeded crops and they have poor germination. One reason could be you planted them too deep. Another reason is you're not keeping that soil, that 1-inch topsoil moist all the time, because they will germinate, and then if you skip a day or two and they dry out, those fine seedlings with very small roots will either dry out and have poor germination. Now, what's interesting is here that this side did not germinate as well as this side. But later, when it started getting rain in September, this side started to germinate. So go figure. This is the leftover sweet potatoes from leftover from the spring. Beautiful flower. This is not a commercially available variety. This is sweet potato that's deep purple color that all the way through, not just the skin coloration. Very nutrition, sweet, tasty. My rats and rabbits loved it too. And this is the leftover Swiss chard and kale from the spring. If you remember my previous shows, these came from the hydroponic system in the botany house. I planted them out in the spring. Kale, I struggled with kale with worms all summer long. They grow out, they leaf out, and then in 2 days the cabbage worm eats them. So I barely harvested 1/10 of what I should have harvested, but they did not bother the Swiss chard at all. The cabbage moth did not bother the Swiss chard at all. However, in the fall, I started seeing damage on the Swiss chard, but not on the kale. And the moth is this tiny moth, kind of tan color, not the white butterfly that lays the cabbage worm eggs. So it's a different beast that's is damaging my Swiss chard in the fall. The kale throughout the whole spring and summer was a disaster. So not planting kale anymore unless I plan on spraying almost like once a week or twice a week. And I don't want to do that. I don't consider myself organic. If I have a choice between spraying 7 or losing the crop, I will spray 7. Of course, my first choice is insecticidal soap, BT, this and that. But if needed, I will go to a stronger chemical. But you know what? I did not spray maybe twice insecticidal soap on the whole garden, and I did fine, except when the mite moved in and killed all my tomatoes. You can watch previous episodes of this series, and you'll see what they did to my tomatoes. So spray tomatoes more often. That's a lesson learned, and no more kale in the garden unless you are willing to spray regularly for cabbage. This is the leftover pepper from the spring crop. I started harvesting and I started transplanting them. I dug up a couple of plants from each variety, put them in a pot, and moved them to the greenhouse to overwinter them in the greenhouse and then plant them back out in the spring. And here is a comparison between the radish on September 3rd, I guess, let's say it's 3-4 days after seeding, and this is a week later. See how thick that seed is? I mean, that is really a waste of seed. The seeder I was using was not calibrated well, it overseeded. But like I said, I thinned them and I thinned them again and I thinned them again, and each time I thin them, it's a meal or two or to share with my colleagues. Right here, what you see in the empty rows are my carrots. I know carrots take 10 days to germinate, but I'm still not happy of how, barely nothing still showing. Maybe the seeds are old. I know the seeds are 3 years old. I was hoping that they will still be okay. And here are the variety of the bok choys, Carlton, the red one is Rosie, and then you have Mizuna, and then this would be bok choy and bok choys. So uh, 4 varieties of bok choy and 1 variety of Mizuna, and you see how fast they grew. These were transplanted, and I like transplanting better than seeding because they look pretty. You see the line, straight line, the plants are more uniform in size. You don't have to thin. For all those reasons, I love transplanting. Of course, when I seeded them in a tray in the greenhouse, I overseeded, so I ended up still thinning those seedlings from 3 in a cluster here to 1, so that, of course, that's a meal. But then these were not crowded anymore and they can get a chance to fill up. So bok choy, you can eat it as baby bok choy and then as mature size, like full size bok choy. So overseeding or seeding doubles or triples in when you're transplanting is not bad, because when you thin them, you have the baby bok choy and you leave the third one to get full size and eat the full-size bok choy. They were all delicious. You'll be surprised on how many ways you can cook bok choys. If you like cabbage and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, I don't see why you cannot learn to like any of these Asian vegetables. And in the space here 4x4 that you can maybe put 4 plants of cabbage and really squeezing them tight. I have 16 plants here, not counting the doubles and the triples that I thinned a couple of times. So you see, you have more chances, more room to grow more crop in the same space, just by trying new and teaching your taste buds to enjoy new varieties. And this would be my daikon radish. I had 2 types of daikon, the white daikon radish, and here in the middle the red skin daikon radish, beautiful daikon radishes. And in the back you see here are the 1-year-old basil and pepper plants. Well, this is their second season. So this fall, actually today, I dug them up this morning and transplanted them and moved them to the greenhouse. So they will over the winter, and next year it will be their third year of growth. And my goal is to have one bed that will be permanent in the greenhouse, back out to the garden, in the greenhouse, back out to the garden, and maybe one day I'll tell you, here's my 10-year-old peppers. And here are different kinds of bok choys also, some onion chives and onions in the back. And right here in the front, again, you see the difference, what 6 days can do. I mean, I thinned here, had a meal, I thinned here, had a meal, and I still have a lot of plants to go and get big. But right here in the front is called Shinjuku. It's a chrysanthemum variety, edible variety. It tasted very good with kind of like, I don't know, tasted like leafy green, but with a hint of perfume to it. And it had that, I don't know, the smell or the taste of something unique to it. Then I wouldn't eat it by itself, but adding it with meat, it reminded me of cilantro, where it's too strong to eat it by itself, like you wouldn't make a sauteed cilantro, but adding it with a meat dish will flavor the meat dish and will give it a unique flavor. And it's so that's what I think I would like to use my Shinjuku. And you'll see how it's spelled in a future slide. And here are my 2 tomato, Ruby Crush and Tycoon. They're beautiful. We already started harvesting. Like I said, this is my first time growing fall tomatoes, and I'm praying every day I will harvest all these flowers. There's probably 500 flowers here or 1,000 flowers. We already harvested a couple of pounds only on the Ruby Crush, nothing on the Tycoon. I hope to be able to harvest something our first killing frost or killing freeze. So the plants were beautiful. They grew very fast. They grew very well, much faster and more lush and much more flowers than spring plants, because this spring was a challenging one. We know it got too hot too quick. But again, you're playing a gamble against the first freeze and how much you're going to harvest. This is arugula, 1 row of arugula that germinated much before all the cilantro. That's rest on the rest of these rows. This is my cilantro trial, and my rabbits love these arugulas. So anyway, but again, you'll see here how thick the seeding is. That machine is not well calibrated. That's the homework I have to do when we get some down. And this is my arugula trial. Did I say arugula here? Sorry, the previous slide was a kohlrabi next to cilantro, the 1 row of kohlrabi. This is the variety trial of arugula that I planted. Previous slide is kohlrabi. This is arugula. Let's watch this video. Okay, Next, I'm going to plant turnip in a different way. Instead of rows, I'm going to broadcast it. Okay, zoom back. Step. I'm going to broadcast it and then rake it to spread it. And then when they germinate, thin them to, I'm not going to thin them to 6 inches, which it should be. I'm gonna thin them to 3 inches, so they'll make smaller turnips. Because I personally like the leaves more than the turnip itself. So I'm gonna keep them a little denser, so they have smaller turnips and have more leaves. More leaves. So when you broadcast, nobody I know can have um, even distribution when they broadcast. Nobody. It's not easy to do. You think you're spreading, but some spot will be thick and some spot will be thin. So to fix that problem, after you broadcast, you get a rake, and then you gently mix it one way, and then you go crossways. That helps spreading out the seeds more evenly. So that's how I do it. Give it a try and let me know if it'll work out for you. And let's watch this video on different kinds of winter covers. This is brand name is called Agribon. You'll see it's written here, Agribon, Agribon. It's a fabric, it's a white fabric, kind of like a felt material, thin. It lets in plenty of light for the plants to grow, and it will do 2 or 3 degrees of protection, like just above the freezing point, so the plants don't die. But most importantly, to get success with a cover is the elevated above the plant. If you throw this blanket right on top of the plant, on the surface, it's not going to do much. So using these hoops and make a pocket inside, that's what does the magic, not the fabric itself. So let's watch. In preparation for the winter freezes, I'm testing and installing 3 kinds of covers, small tunnels with 3 kinds of material used to make the small tunnels. This one here has a string running inside the tube, so that was easy. So this is one solid piece that flexible and looks like it's durable. The string inside helps it from, if it breaks, it doesn't fly anywhere. So I like this model. This one here, they are individual pieces. Like the green part is individual piece separate from the connector, the black piece. So those were very hard to install, and actually the piece broke and flew out. So you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hoops when we should have had 6 like all the rest. So we spread them out more. So I don't like this model. This model here, it's not clearly visible, but it's bigger, thicker stem tubing, and it comes already curved like a 90 degree. So each hoop is 4 pieces with 3 connectors, and depending on how you install the corners, it can be wide and short, or taller, higher and narrower. We chose the wider and short. So that's the 3 different tunnels, and we're also testing 3 types of covers. This is Agribon. The brand name is Agribon. It's matted row cover. So you search for matted row cover, and you can find it. Johnny Seed, other online companies sell them. They come in different thicknesses. This is the half-ounce grade. You can see it's almost transparent. It's good for some window protection, but not heavy freezes. This is a clear plastic that has pre-cut holes, so it's pre-perforated clear plastic. I like this one because you don't have to worry about overheating because it will vent, and at night when it gets cold, the plastic will keep it warmer. So I put a thermometer that will measure highest and lowest in here and in here, and we'll check some numbers later. This one is thicker grade, also Agribon, thicker grade. My guess it's the 1 pound, sorry, 1 ounce grade. This is really thick. I'm not gonna cover it now because it's too, it'll block a lot of light, and just not the right time. This is better saved for freezes later in the season. But we installed it. See, we put pins here all along that side. So Cameron, if we have to, we just go and pull it to the other side. Maybe go from the other side and pull easier. Here. So it's not pinned on that one side. We just pull it and then put staples on that side, and it's covered in 2 minutes. That's it. Staple. Very nice. I hope you learned something from this. And this video shows you in detail that third type of hoops, where you can build it either wide and short, or narrower and taller, depending on how you hook up those 90-degree pieces, one way or another. My beds were 4 foot wide, so I chose the short and wide version to be able to cover my bed. I like this material. It looks like very durable. Did not is not going to break or snap. The other two kinds already some pieces broke. And this is how they looked. We had a cold blast. Let me see, September 19, I believe, and it was gonna drop in like 34, but ended up being dropping only to 38. So nothing was damaged. There was a little bit of burn on the sweet potato. This is expected. This is sweet potato is not a cold tolerant crop at all. But none of the other plants were even damaged at all. So anyway, just showing you, be prepared, have it set on one side with pins ready. With two people, it'll take less than a minute to cover it and pin it on the other side, and you're set. You're set. Back to plants. Let's watch this video. The outside air temperature was 44, and I'm showing you what the temperature is inside that tunnel that was covered with a perforated plastic mulch, plastic cover. Okay, we just set up the perforated plastic cover. The temperature, air temperature is right now 59.4. So within half hour of setting up that perforated plastic, we set it, we did some things when we came back to it, and by the time we did the video, the air temperature was 44, inside was 59.4. Works great. And I use that very thick freeze blanket to cover my tomatoes, and luckily I had enough to cover each row of tomato by itself, instead of one long piece, because mine was not really wide to cover the tomatoes. But again, it wasn't that cold, and you see here that it did not really that cover did not really reach the ground, because my stakes are tall, like 4 foot above the ground, and that was fine. That was fine. Didn't seem to affect any damage. And that's the side view of the row of tomato. That one bed of tomato with two varieties planted in it. Next day before we removed it, looked fine. This bed here is my garlic variety trial. We planted them now in the fall, about a month ago. Put individual cloves, and then we'll harvest them next June. And this video will show you how I am transplanting. I'm digging up my peppers from the garden, trimming them, trim the foliage, trim the roots, put them in a pot to go into the greenhouse to overwinter them in the greenhouse. Let's watch. Put a little bit of potting mix on the bottom. This variety is called candy cane. The leaves are variegated, white and green, and the fruits are white and green color. This is one of those variety I would call ornamental edible. I would plant it in my ornamental as a landscape plant and harvest the peppers, just like New Mexico Mirasol. And then Mirasol, that will have very beautiful clusters. So you see, trim the roots, fill it with soil, press the soil well to compact it.
Turf blend, good quality compost.
Quality compost.
All we have to do now is prune the top. Since we pruned the roots, prune the top like by half at least, make it look nice, and water it well, put it inside the greenhouse, and it will be ready for next year. So, let's see. I like to prune better, but for the sake of demonstration. Here's a new plant. Now we just have to water it. So come take a video of these two next to each other. Show like how much it was before and how much it before and after.
Before and after.
Okay.
Next video. This is
Okay,
us
the
thinning the
JRC needs
arugula.
calibration because it dropped too many seeds. So this is radish, and look how many extra we had to remove to get that distance of 3 inches in between plants. And this is what we're doing here, thin them, thin them.
Yes, like I said, it's a blessing in disguise because all those plants that we thinned, even the radishes, they will saute, they will cook, they will go in a stew. We've used them, I mean, even the simplest dish of saute onion and garlic and then add the vegetables with some olive oil and salt and pepper and whatever spices that you like. It will be a great dish, very nutritious and very tasty. Here I'm going to talk about harvesting green garlic. Let's listen.
Good morning, everybody. October 25th, and this today we'll be showing you around the garden at the Dallas Center. This is my tomato trial. This is the first time I plant tomatoes in the fall. They're flowering, they're in full bloom, they have lots of fruits. I hope they can harvest something before the first freeze in a month. But my instinct tells me that the yield will not be the same as spring, like a spring crop. We'll see. But here, what I want to show you today is how to maximize the space that you're using. Can you do a close up? Yep. Look at the cherry tomato that we planted. But I had a bit of empty space here, so what I did is I planted bulb garlic, the whole bulb, to harvest for leaves, what I call green garlic. So you plant the whole bulb, and when the leaves are this long, or whatever size you like, they can be longer. You just harvest them, clean them. The clove part is eaten up to feed the plant. And so it looks like green onion, but it's a garlic. That's why I call it green garlic. It's a great way to plant the cheapest garlic you can get from the store and not use up a lot of space. Like within 30 days you can harvest and plant another bulb in its place and have that, and all of this is edible. You chop it, cook it, it's much milder than the bulb itself in terms of flavor. So it can be cut to pieces and dehydrated, so it can last for a long time. So here is, and you dig it up and you plant another one in its place, and you can keep doing it until June. Okay. Green garlic.
Green garlic, the Joe Masabni way. The reason I like this is, like I mentioned in the video, is that you plant it in the fall in a grid 4x4, harvest, plant again, harvest, plant again. This way by March, when you're ready to plant your tomatoes, you are harvested and dehydrated and stored so much of that green garlic foliage. And you can remove it all and plant your spring tomatoes. If you're planting garlic to harvest bulbs, they go in the fall in September and you harvest them in June. You don't have room to plant your spring tomatoes if you don't have a large area to plant your garden. So that's the advantage of this green garlic approach, if you like. And they can go in a pot, they can go in a container, they can go in any, even like a 4-inch tub. on the side that you can grow it in there. You see the roots are not that deep. They can grow anywhere and get you, the flavor is much, like I said, much milder. Let's watch here.
So I didn't see any feeding damage from the roof rats on the sweet potato, the vines, and I don't think they were eating the roots because all the tubers that we harvested looked fine, not a single bite on any one of them, and a lot of them were mature, so it's like they're sweet enough. So that's my opinion. But this row of kohlrabi is damaged. I mean, there's a bite of every plant. Luckily, they were seeded heavy. I was using this Jang seeder, and looks like we did not calibrate it well. So I have more than enough to feed the rats and save for us. They don't seem to like cilantro, because you see the rest of the bed is cilantro, and they're not touching it at all. Rabbits, on the other hand, in the spring, when I had a planting trial of cilantro and parsley, they ate them all completely. Kohlrabi seem to be favored by.
So, okay, I looked up my earlier notes and I was wrong. In the spring, when I planted a bed, half a bed of cilantro and half a bed of parsley, they cleaned up the parsley to the ground, but they did not touch cilantro. So rabbits do not like cilantro, and that's why they are. You see all the seedlings here. This variety trial of 4 types of cilantro were not touched. I thought it was the roof rats, but it wasn't the roof rats that was nibbling on the kohlrabi. It was a rabbit. And the next video will show you The rabbit caught in the act. This is a game camera, and I hate rabbits. I hate rabbits. Now, instead of a petting and such a cute animal, now I'm starting to think how to stew them, barbecue them, cook them with meat and all things, because they're attacking my beautiful plants. So the reason I thought it was a rat, not a rabbit, because I thought we fixed all the gates. We closed all the holes. I did not see any damage at all throughout the spring, summer. I did not expect it was that. So maybe that's another lesson to be learned, is that you keep checking your gates because they may move, the gap may get a little bit bigger. And trust me, this rabbit may look big, but it can squeeze in maybe in a gap that's a couple of inches wide. These are wild rabbits, not pet animals that are really big and fat. So they can squeeze in tight spaces, and they find their way, especially when they have a beautiful garden full of all kind of cornucopia of food. So end of October, we started harvesting some of the bok choys. Yeah, bok choy variety, starting to harvest and share it with our colleagues. So initially, I harvested, I thinned them, because some of them had two plants and a plug, two seedlings, so we thinned them to one. And one time I harvested individual leaf, and then this time we harvested the whole head because they're starting to get old. Bok choys, when they get old, they become too tough and woody. And this variety is the that we harvested bok choy. Of course, all this trash we will remove. I don't want to invite any pests or diseases in case they are on this leaf to remain and go. If you choose to do this, chop it and bury it. Fine, you get the benefit, the nutrient benefit of those leaves to go in the garden, but don't just leave it on the surface and say, oh, it'll rot and it'll dry out. It's not good. Um, I kept seeing that all spring and summer. The whole is that with any low-hanging pepper fruits will be eaten like this. They cut towards the top part where the seeds are, because that's where the protein and fats are in the seeds. The rats don't care about the pod itself. They're going after the fat and protein in the seeds. And here are the sweet potato variety. I told you how it's deep purple all the way through. Tastes great. Here's one dish. And here is my rhubarb. No? Yeah, rhubarb mixed in a dish here with Shinjuku. Both mixture of two, because I remember I told you Shinjuku, which is a type of chrysanthemum, was very strong flavor by itself, was not good. But the next to the rhubarb, that was very mild. Why do I keep saying rhubarb? Arugula. Next to the arugula, that's very mild, was a great combination as a side dish. And you know what? Sometimes sitting and working in the garden, you forget to sit and enjoy the how beautiful the plants are. So here I'm sitting next to my 2-year-old basil plants with bees flying all around. I guess I don't have to have worry about pollination because my basil were attracting the bees all year long. So plant basil in your garden, give it room to get spread, and you don't have to worry about having a hive in your garden because these will attract them because they seem to be flowering all the time. And this picture here on the left, before I trimmed it And here is after I trimmed those two basil plants. Here's one and here's the second one. After I trimmed them and dug them up to go inside the botany house for storage over the winter. And here they are. Here are the two basil plants, and here are the two pepper plants. Again, these are 2-year-old. So next spring when they go out, there would be 3-year-old pepper plants. And here on the left are the various varieties. I had, remember I had 2 beds with 9 varieties each, and I took 2 plants of each variety to overwinter them. So that I will have 1 bed in the future to become a perennial, what I'm going to call perennial pepper plants, in and out, especially though, and I'll keep, of course, those that I like and enjoy the flavor.
These are the peppers that we transplanted from the garden back inside the greenhouse. I got 2 of each. As a reminder, if you can look at the old videos, I cut them back severely, trimmed the roots from the top, and put them here. And look, like here's candy cane, here's an Mirasol, New Mexico Mirasol. They're growing, they're leafing out. This one, Guajillo, starting to flower. They're gonna do fine over the winter. And these 2 peppers that I just dug up today are from the garden. And you see, so this plant is 2 years old. Hopefully one day you'll watch a video and I'll tell you this plant is 10 years old.
Yes, I hope you'll be with me, and we'll still be here and tell you these plants are 10 years old. Now, what am I going to do with them over the winter? I will fertilize them, but much less, maybe just to keep them alive and feed the roots, so something high in phosphorus and potassium, a little bit less on the nitrogen. So not, let's say I will not use triple 13, that's too much of everything, maybe something less. With the nitrogen, I have a lot of organic fertilizer, which are like 3-3-3 or 1.5 to 1.5. So I will use that. That's not too strong, just to keep them alive, and they will continue to fruit. Because I don't want them to grow full blast and give them full amount of fertilizer, because they don't have a full amount of light over the winter. So just enough to stay alive. And of course I have to spray them regularly, because in a greenhouse where you don't have cold and rain, mite problem can be an issue. And here's a panoramic view of the garden, of all 4 zones. Here's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. Some beds like here, this one, are in transition. We just dug up the sweet potatoes. Some are like zone 1 and 2 and 4 already cleaned up from the spring crop and planted with new crops. You just have to sit and take close-ups and enjoy the fruits of your labor. We work so hard to eat and harvest something to enjoy. We forget the beauty of the plants. When you want to take a close-up pictures, the color, the texture, the combination of color, they are beautiful. Like even this picture here with the cluster of ruby crushed tomatoes, just a beautiful field. And here's the daikon radish and the Chinese cabbage and the mustard green and the white stem bok choy and the green stem bok choy and rosy, which is purple bok choy, and mizuna, just a beautiful plants, flowers of the sweet potato. I think here you can see a little bit of burn from that cold snap we had. Luckily did not get to be 34, ended up being only around 38. But still cold enough and fast enough that it burned the plants. So far, my fall garden, and you see here the list of crops that I planted and the dates that I harvested and how much I harvested in pound. So far from, let's say, September 1st, I've harvested about 100 pounds. Okay. And that's not even a third of what I will be harvesting all season long. The irregulas, there's still plenty. The bok choys, there's still plenty. And as I remove, we already have now seedlings that are ready to go in the garden. I have a lettuce variety trial. I'm going to plant 5-6 varieties of lettuce, and I'm going to plant 5-6 varieties of radishes to go in the garden as I remove the bok choys, because these are not going to be there much longer. So, just today we harvested 11 pounds of daikon and just a few plants here and there. A quick recap on the spring variety trial, because I still have peppers and I still have the plants, and just to show you the total yields. The pepper variety trial, I had 5 plants each and of each variety, and a total yield from 3 rows was 268 pounds from 3 rows. 3 beds, each one is 4 by 17, 268 pounds. Tomatoes, I had 468 pounds from these varieties, 5 plants each, but really 95% of them were waste, because every time a fruit ripened, it had bites on it. I'm sure it was the rat getting in and feeding on it, or a squirrel. I know squirrels love tomatoes. So we'll have to see next year when my spring tomato planting. We'll just have to have some cage or insect netting or whatever to protect them. Of course, some varieties did better than others. So like UV32, which is still a experimental variety, supposed to be heat tolerant, had only 2.5 pounds out of 5 plants. That's not good enough. But this experimental variety, again, that's heat tolerant, HT1, had 35 pounds, almost as much as hot TY. Tribeca, Rambler, I guess the biggest one was Thunderbird and HM 8849 in terms of yield. Ruby Crush is my favorite in terms of taste. It's a great tomato, so I'm sure I could have had a lot more if I had controlled my mites and kept them under. Here is again, my spring trial. Swiss chard, 29 pound. Kales, what I kept was 9 pound. The rest was damaged and ugly because of the cabbage worm moth, so I'm not doing that again. Kabocha, 54 pounds. I could have had a lot more if it wasn't for the mites. Cantaloupes, 109 pounds that went to the garbage, because everyone, like the tomatoes, had bites on them from the squirrels. Even though I built my cantaloupes on a trellis, watch my older videos, but hey, squirrels will climb anywhere, and that didn't stop them. I had 4 types of zucchini, 1 in each bed, for a total of 288 pounds. The grand total of my spring garden was 1,229 pounds. Hopefully next year it will be a lot. So in summary, and my final thoughts is, I hate rabbits and I hate squirrels even more. Please send me ideas, send me suggestions on what worked best for you. I will not plant again kale. I was basically feeding the cabbage worm all summer. I saw today I saw grasshoppers mating. Seems like fall is the best time for insect control to avoid them overwintering. I am sure they were mating to lay eggs, and those eggs will not have time to hatch and start feeding because it's just too cold. So fall will be this time will be the best time. Soil drench with something like 7, like spray the soil, or 7 dust, sprinkle it on the bed, on the soil, and water it in would be a great approach. That will also control your white grubs. If you see few grasshoppers and then next year you have a lot more grasshoppers, then you realize that they laid eggs in your garden. They did not fly in. Another thought I have is I still prefer transplants than direct seeding, just from the aesthetic. They look pretty, they look in line, you don't have to worry about thinning them 6-7 times because the machine was not calibrated well. Also, I noticed that rabbits will seem to prefer germinated seedlings than the transplant of the same variety. Maybe because it's a little bit tougher or a little bit bigger, they avoid it. They will go for the germinating seedlings faster as a first choice. With that, I want to thank you for staying with me, and I hope you enjoyed this show. And if you have any suggestions or advice, even crops or varieties you'd like me to test, please let me know. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.